Hey everyone, we're approaching the end of the first half of 2020, and I thought I'd make a video about all the nice things that I've enjoyed in 2020 because it hasn't been the end of the world. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but there's been a lot of learning experiences, and there's been a lot of things I've been able to take away from all the events of the year. I started off the year making two major New Year's resolutions. I needed to see a lot of people make resolutions to lose weight, but I needed to correct some eating behavior, some behaviors surrounding eating in my life. I have some. I wouldn't call it binge eating disorder, but more of an addictive personality to the concept of eating. I would be so fixated on getting to my favorite foods that it would ruin family get-togethers, work events, social events. I couldn't even enjoy a movie or going to a theme park if I couldn't bring my food in there. Anyways, it was unpleasant in its own right, and I made a resolution to normalize my relationship with food. It's a mouthful. Sometimes when people talk about my resolution, they say, "Oh, I heard Andrew made a resolution to lose weight." I didn't. I really despise when people mischaracterize it, but that's another story. I also made a resolution to mingle with the right people. See, I sometimes have a hard time making use of everything I do. Right, I compete in the computer Olympiad where I have the number two or number three computer chess game in the world. It varies from year to year. As you guys saw in recent videos, I've been really honing my photography skills. Unfortunately, I need to mingle with the right person to make use of all of these all of these things that I'm doing. Right? What else am I doing? Obviously, I talk about how I'm an adjunct professor for a startup university, but I like to do some tutoring on the side. I don't have the best of luck finding clients, right? Obviously, I love to make YouTube videos. I haven't had anything that's really gone viral yet, probably because I need the right connections. So making connections was another big resolution of mine. What else did I do? Those were the big ones. And so the beginning of the year was going pretty well, actually. I wrote a number of computer games. I mingled with a few people at work. What I really find is that part of my resolution was to normalize my relationship with food. And one mini challenge I did as part of that was fasting at least once a week, right, for 24 hours. And I found that when I was in my fasting state, my social anxiety improved a whole lot. I was able to mingle at people's graduation events. This was in January, where we had a cohort of students who had graduated, and I was able to attend that without too much trouble. I mean, I did have to say no to a couple of foods because I was still going in the middle of my fasting, but I was able to mingle with people and talk about my computer science expeditions, including the Computer Olympiad, including my teaching. And that was good. As part of my plan to mingle with more people, I was spending a lot of time at a cafeteria in one of the grocery stores in Kirkland where I was living. And at the beginning of COVID-19, when it was only something that was happening in China, people were warned to wash their hands more. And I was excited for that because I felt people could use some better hygiene. I have food allergies, and sometimes I have to worry about shaking somebody's hand if they'd just eaten something really dusty. And the idea that people are going to be more cautious about washing their hands, and maybe you could refuse to shake hands with somebody without looking awkward, that was very exciting. Until one day I went back to my favorite cafeteria, and it was all cordoned off, and there was this big sign saying that in light of social distancing, recommendations, this area is temporarily closed. And at the time, on the sign, it only said it was going to be closed for 2 weeks. But that was really upsetting for me because I had made this goal of mingling with people in all walks of life. And I was so upset. It was a sandwich board sign. I was so upset that I kicked the sign. And I twisted my leg when I did that. I went, ah! And so it really embarrassed me. I really shouldn't have done that. And I stormed out of that place. And I decided to drive to Ellensburg. At this point in time, our workplace had closed down as well. At the beginning of the crisis, it was mostly a Seattle issue, right? I think 2 people who had come home from China to Seattle had gotten infected. I drove to Ellensburg, and to my relief, the cafeteria in the grocery store there, as well as the Starbucks in that area, they were still open. They were closing off like every other seat or something like that, but they were still open, and I still got to mingle with people. I remember when I got to Ellensburg and I stopped at the grocery store, the first thing I noticed was somebody wiping down the shit out of their car door handles, and I thought that was pretty extreme already at that point. Nobody was wearing masks yet, there weren't sneeze guards or anything, and that was that. And next thing I know, at this point in time, I was actually living in my car. Next thing I know, I hear about the stock market plunging 1,000, 2,000 points every day. And at the same time, gold and silver were falling, and I thought this is a really good opportunity. And I went to one of the major precious metals dealers. I'm not going to say which one because they're all pretty good, actually, of the big ones. And I had tried to buy a 1,000 ounce silver bar, but they were having some stock issues. I ended up having to settle for some smaller ones. I made the order, and what else did I do around that time? Well, I was staying in Ellensburg at the time in my car. The next day I go back to that same grocery store and I see that same annoying phrase, social distancing. At the beginning of the crisis, I remember thinking that's like the S word for me, right? The social distancing, right? I didn't like it. So I come back to Kirkland, and I go on to Craigslist to look for a cheap apartment to move into because I didn't want to spend 24 hours a day in the car. I mean, I used to live in my car a good 8 or 9 months out of the year when the weather was permitting of it. Couple days later, I get a call back from the precious metals dealer saying that they needed to confirm a bunch of information. They gave me 5 business days to confirm or they would cancel the order. And I waited 4 days just to see if the price of silver would go up or down. If it went down, I would just let that order just disappear. If it went up, then I would confirm the information with them. I was trying to be a little bit sneaky. So on day 4, I called them to confirm a bunch of them. They wanted a piece of mail with my name on it. They wanted my, I forget what it was, something to confirm my social security number. I think it was a tax return or something like that. And I confirmed it, and it took about a month for the silver to come. I felt like I kind of cheated the system by waiting 4 days. I'll have to remember how to do that next time again, because that's a good way to pick out the lows if they need to confirm information. Okay, and then finally I move into the apartment. I made a ton of videos between then and now, as you can see. At the beginning of the crisis, I remember everybody was... The people who didn't believe the crisis were still going to the park. And then they started to close off the playground areas. Technically, I think the parks were closed. They didn't really enforce it for some time, except that they locked the bathrooms, which made it really hard to stay there unless you knew a good place where you could hide under a tree, which made it all the worse. I don't know if urine spreads COVID-19. I did some reading. Apparently it doesn't. Poop would, right? So if people are staying there long enough to need to poop, the locking of the bathrooms would definitely not be a good idea. Oh, and the first week of that lockdown, I went to a grocery store, and the beer aisle was a mess. People were grabbing beer left and right, making a mess, spilling an occasional bottle of beer, and then all the beer was gone except for one brand. There was this huge mountain of Corona beer, which nobody wanted. Snooping online, I discovered that in the 1980s, there used to be a diet pill, or not a pill, a candy that helped you lose weight called AIDS. And the advertisement went, "I was overweight and AIDS helped me lose weight." And then obviously a few years after that candy was released, there was something else called AIDS that also helped people lose a lot of weight, right? Maybe we'll have an advertisement that I had social anxiety, I had difficulty going to a bar. Corona helped me drink at home, right? So Corona beer, nobody wanted it. And then we had the holiday involving Corona beer, obviously, Cinco de Mayo, right? And then finally, by the end of May, we were allowed to travel a little bit. I took a trip to Lake Tahoe, and I did Nevada, and what else has been going on? And I went to I went on another fast. You guys saw videos of it. June 11th and June 13th, I have two major life anniversaries in my life, and it's very appropriate that this year, 10 years ago on June 13, 2010, I had broken up with a girl, and I really enjoyed the time by myself. And I took a break off of dating for half a year, and so it's kind of appropriate that I'm celebrating a 10th year anniversary. I'm also taking a break off of dating for a different reason, right? And so I went on a 38-hour. I was going to fast June 11th through the 13th, but I made it 38 hours. During that fast, I went to the CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, where they're doing all this protesting. At first, I kind of welcomed it. I hadn't mingled with so many people for a long time. People were taking somewhat good precautions. Masks, hand sanitizers, or health checkups, temperature screenings. But then people started to vandalize some of my favorite things, right? I love to view the night sky, and one of my favorite places to go with dark skies is near Ellensburg, and there's a rock formation. And for many years, that's been a very comforting sign to me. But now somebody spray painted a ton of Black Lives Matter stuff on it. I'm going to go back there later this week to put some posters on there saying that the Earth matters. And please stop spraying. I need to come up with a slogan for Earth Matters. Anyways, I'll think about that. I still got another week before I head back to Ellensburg. On the 4th of July, we have a lunar eclipse. Anyways, so a lot of learning experiences, and hopefully I'll have some stories to share with my children or my grandchildren. I might not see grandchildren in my lifetime because I don't plan on having children anytime soon. Thanks for watching.